Here's a pretty scary and worrisome poll. So this headline reads, half of Republicans in new polls say election was, quote, rigged, stolen from Trump. It says roughly half of Republicans believe President Trump, quote, rightfully won the election, with 68% saying they had concerns about a, quote, rigged vote counting process in favor of President-elect Joe Biden, according to a new Reuters-Ipsos opinion poll released Wednesday. Overall, 73% of Americans polled in the November 13, 17 survey said they believe Biden won the election. That is a supermajority, while 5% say they thought Trump won. However, only 29% of Republicans believe that Biden had rightfully won, compared to 52% of Republicans who said the same about Trump. The poll also reported that 55% of adults believed the 2020 election was legitimate and accurate, a 7-point decrease from a similar poll released following the 2016 election. So basically, Trump has been continuing to try to lie about the election being rigged. Every single claim he makes that there was late voting going on, that's entirely false whatsoever. There were no ballots accepted that were cast on the days after the election. There's postmarked election ballots where the ballot was postmarked on election day and it was received days after. That's not voting late. That's voting on time. It just got there later on, and states had various extension deadlines for when they could arrive. But what's most important is those votes don't even matter in Biden's win because he didn't need those to win. Those are just extra. He would win probably even more with those. So that's false. Claims that Republican overseers were not allowed in the counting rooms, that's also extremely false. That's proven false in court. And so he keeps saying a bunch of stuff on Twitter. Like, dude, your place to say this stuff is in court because that's where it actually gets decided. So if you're sitting here yapping your ass off on Twitter, what that probably tells me is you are probably losing everything in court, because otherwise, why would you just be saying stuff on Twitter? What can I do to definitively prove you wrong on Twitter? I can't, right? So go to court, try to prove your case, let's see what your evidence is. And so far, I think they've lost every single case but one, and that one court case that they won was just, it was a meaningless win. But it's pretty scary that half of Republicans say that the election was rigged, man. I just did a story yesterday about a South Dakota nurse who basically explained, who essentially explained that she has dying patients of coronavirus. They're getting, they're on ventilators. They can't breathe. They're dying, and they refuse to believe it's real, even to the point where they're hoping that it's lung cancer rather than coronavirus. And so essentially, there is a really big Trump cult of like maybe 10 million people, I would say. That 10 million cult kind of says whatever Donald Trump or some Republicans will say. They are also a death cult who will sort of die for whatever he says. They're definitely big on his propaganda, falling for his propaganda. And it's definitely worrisome that there's a pretty big chunk of the population who is like this. And, Trump might run again in 2024. And honestly, who's to say he's not going to win the primary in 2024?